Good morning, everyone. It's already hot out here. I'm going to stay in the car with the air conditioning running. I'm here at my son's donation site, so we do this 2 days a week. You got to have 2 days in between full days, so. And we're going to try to get his prescription today, so hopefully everything will go okay. Well, the world's continuing to melt. There's a major election was won in Venezuela. They're throwing out the communist government. The people don't want it. We're marching our communists to the polls as fast as we can. They're throwing our democratic republic out. We're not a democracy. It's a democratic republic or just plain republic. They've convinced a lot of the people that that's the way we should go. But that's what they were doing on purpose. They were indoctrinating our kids going to school, and eventually they get enough people out there that they looks like they might vote in their communists. Now, they've already got pseudo-communism out there anyway. The one world government is a communist government. So things are fixing to get bad. I've got ants crawling on my window, so there's some ants somewhere in my car. It's the downside of being out in the country. All right. I get distracted very easily. So for today, what we're going to do is we're talking about being prepared. So having food and water, that's one way to be prepared. There's another way to be prepared, and that's knowing what to do if the infrastructure collapses. And what do I mean by that? I'm recording this on a phone. I'm going to post it to YouTube. What if you lose the internet? It goes completely down. We had computers go down about 10 days ago. It had to do a lot with banks and airports and transportation stuff. It was limited, but it was down completely in those limited areas. What if it goes completely down and does not come back because it was forcibly taken down? When you're in a war, the first thing you do is try to get in and cut the communication. You don't want the enemy, in the case of you being the attacker, you don't want your enemy knowing what you're doing and being able to make plans and move things around. If you can do it in the dark so that they don't know, you're better. So our infrastructure has been proven multiple times to be weak. Was that the Chinese that took it down? I don't know. Probably. Could it have been Iran? We have a lot of enemies. So what are you going to do when it goes down? What if you lose electricity, power? What are you going to do? If everything that you depend on goes down. Now today, in our modern age of technology, if you're having problems with your computer, you can't fix something electronic, go find yourself an 8-year-old. They work with this stuff every day. We're teaching them young how to deal with this stuff. But what if it goes completely down? Guess what? You're going to have to find somebody old who grew up in a time when they didn't have this. When I started working on computers, there were no mobile phones, no PCs, no internet. They had a very rudimentary internet come out in the first few years of me doing this. but it was merely to communicate between colleges to send files back and forth, documentation, paperwork, things like that. It wasn't designed the way ours is now. And it certainly wasn't on a portable computer more powerful than the entire Apollo space program up to that point. Includes Mercury and Gemini and all the other ones. The whole space program, even our current space station, doesn't have the technology that my phone has in it. Now, the advantage of making things small, the astronauts aren't left with stupid computers in the space station. They can carry laptops. And your laptop will still work, probably, unless it is a massive conspiracy, in which case the operating systems shut down too. One of the biggest contributors to this new world order is Bill Gates. He's against beef. He doesn't think we should be eating anything animal. Of course, he's not familiar with the Bible, or if he is, he's ignoring it. And he's our creator of most operating systems. Microsoft, most PC operating systems. What we have here on our phones, well, these are different, but every cell phone in existence is manufactured in China. At least the components, if they're assembled here, that's different, but it's still manufactured. So they manufacture the chips. Is there a built-in command they can send out to cell phones to shut them down? If I had long-term plans to take over the world, I would certainly do that. So, again, who are you going to call? What are you going to do? Take away your phone. I told you my story a few times about a couple of years ago, I guess. I was camping even further south than I'm at now. And I dropped my phone and the screen shattered to the point where I could not read what was on the screen. And it wasn't just a few cracks, it just completely shattered. It fell on the glass in such a way that it completely took it down. It was still working. I could see stuff moving, but I couldn't tell what was there. I had to go to a phone store and get a new phone. I didn't have a map of Georgia in my car. I'd stopped using them. I used to have map books. We drove all over the place with these multi-page books, and sometimes they were multiple books per area. I carried them in the trunk. With whatever I was currently driving, that book would be up front. We didn't have a computer navigator. And the phones didn't navigate initially. They were just phones. You had to use a Garmin. And you had to have the program in it for the area that you were in. They didn't hold the entire country. But we've come a long way, technology. We've gotten very dependent on it. What will you do when it goes down? Now, after my phone was replaced, I went back to the ranger station where I knew they had maps. The visitor center at the state park I was at. I went there and I bought a state map, and it's in my glove box. I drove over an hour to go to the phone store because I didn't know if there was one near me. I couldn't pull it up on Google and find out where the closest, I think it was T-Mobile then too, T-Mobile store was at. But I got it fixed, and then I fixed the problem because I wasn't ready. Are you ready? Do you have maps? Do you have a plan? Do you have a bug out bag in your car? We don't know what's going to happen. Russia has threatened to put missiles close by. Now, I'm assuming that means Cuba. Our current government would not stand up and defend us the way they should. We have a weak president who won't do anything. And same thing goes to the vice president. Are we going to get Big T in there? I don't know. I know they're going to try something. I just don't know what. They don't want to give up their power. The world leaders who are running things, the puppet government or the ghost government as they call it, they're running things. Our political leaders are simply following orders. And they've all been to the school. All of our major leaders have been to Switzerland, to Klaus Schwab's School of One World Government. This is all planned. They're not being caught off guard. They knew Biden wouldn't survive the entire time. They have contingencies. It's all planned out. Are we going to see Venezuela here? It's possible. But they've been replacing the military with their own people. So how far, if we do have a coup or an uprising here, will the military lay down their arms? Some may. But there may not be enough because they've been replacing them. They've ordered the draft. Who are they going to draft? I bet they're very selective in their selective service. They're going to pick people that are loyal to their cause. That's going to be their primary concern, not whether they can do the job. Look at the unqualified people that were there guarding Trump. Totally unqualified to even carry a gun. Can't even find the holster. Leaving their posts. We're finding out now there was supposed to be a guard up there and surrounding the building. They, quote, felt it was too hot. Now, is that their main reason? I don't know. It's a better excuse than it was a sloped roof, but it's still an excuse. Were they ordered down? Or did somebody say, it's kind of hot outside. If you don't want to be up there, go ahead and come on down. But somebody was helping them. He ordered a 5-foot ladder, and he had a larger ladder there to get up on the roof. Somebody's helping him. They said there were, 7 or 8 shell casings up there. But the shooter was gone, dead. So we don't know if they were planted or if that's how many he shot. We know a couple of people were injured and one died. Now they say, well, this was all a conspiracy thing, that there really wasn't a shooter and it really wasn't anything. It's all made up. Trump did it. Mainstream media caught a picture with their good cameras and showed the bullet streaking by. If it was all conspiracy, they wouldn't have aired that. And Trump wouldn't have ordered random shooting and people killed. He would have just nicked his ear and said, oh my God, somebody must have shot at me. But that's not what happened. And you notice that all the people immediately around Trump, I've seen Secret Service and CIA and all those people around before. These guys are tall, at least 6 foot. Many of them over that. These are all short people around him. He had to crouch down for them to be bodyguards around him. It's a circus. And they can do that blatantly in front of everybody, in front of the world, and get away with it. Because they got away with the election. They stole the election. You can't convince me any other way. I know Georgia and I know the people here. They would not have voted in Biden. Yet he won by a few 100,000 votes. No. And he was behind until after 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, after they sent the majority of the counters home because they thought they were done. And then magically, boxes showed up. They're counting on the ignorance of the people. They've dumbed down our world. They've dumbed them down in school from the beginning all the way up. When my kids were little, my wife went to the daycare, I guess, preschool. They weren't in school yet. I'm not going to mention the company. And she was with them for a couple of years, and then they came in and said, they're going to give us government money, free money to improve, to do the things that we want to do, all the stuff we've been wanting to do. The government's going to chip in money. That came in for, I don't know whether it was a few months or a year, but after they got accustomed to the free money, the government said, well, if you want us to continue paying that money, these are the things you're going to have to do, or we'll stop the money. They should have stopped the money and taught properly, but they didn't. They kept it. There was probably some political pressure on the corporation as well. The kids, when my wife was there, they taught them to read and write, to not write their name. When they got into first grade, the teachers were amazed at how much they knew. They drew within coloring books. They taught them to stay within the lines. The government's rule, no direct teaching. Don't interfere in anything. If they're fighting, you can't lay a hand on them. You got to give them blank pieces of paper, and you can't help them. They're on their own. Anybody who's been around little kids know you can't have little kids 100% on their own. They need parents. They need guidance. And if the parents are going to put them into a daycare because they're working 2 jobs to buy all the stuff they're buying, then the school needs to take over exactly what the parents are doing. And when the government got involved, they stopped doing that. The parents were already up to their armpits in debt, couldn't stop. The government knew that. One of the billionaires, I forget which one was it. Might have been Klaus Schwab, but I don't think so. I think it was Soros. One of them came on, because they interview him all the time, came on and said, I don't have credit. I'm a billionaire, but I don't have credit. If I tried to go in and buy a car on time, they wouldn't sell it to me. Yet I have enough money to buy the dealership. He goes, I don't have credit because I don't borrow money. We're not supposed to borrow money. Obviously, we can't buy things like houses anyway without borrowing. But we could get by without borrowing to buy a car. You just don't have a new car. You see, this is all planned. It's been planned for decades. When I was in high school, we had auto shop, metal shop, wood shop, home ec, computer technology, electronics. I learned all that stuff there before I got out of high school. I knew how to work on my car. My dad didn't buy me a brand new car. He got me a car that needed to be maintained, but I had to maintain it. And that helped when I got out. They've taken all that away. They've dumbed us down so that they can get rid of the middle class. Communism and one world governments don't want the middle class because they could move up into their area. They are smarter and they can see what they're doing. They can complain when they're trying to get away with stuff. If you dumb people down, you get the people that we have on the street now. I've talked about it before. People actually will say things like, if we want to study the sun, why don't we go at night? Speaking of which, I got to tell you that about the sun here in a second. People say, I don't think we should allow hunting. People shouldn't be allowed to go out and kill animals when you can go buy meat in the supermarket. How do you think it got there? They don't know. Now, we're not completely dumbed down yet, but we're not going to be too far from it. The sun, though, reminds me, we don't have global warming, but the sun has highs and lows. It's just coming to the end of a super hot period. So the heat we've been experiencing lately is because the sun is in a hot cycle. And we just got, yesterday I think it was, yesterday or the day before, I don't remember how long it takes for the radiation to get from the sun to the earth. It takes 8 minutes for the light to get here, but I don't remember how the radiation works. But today and tomorrow are going to be super bad for the worst plasma discharge, solar flare, in this cycle of the sun. So I don't remember what it's an X class, but I saw something like 45. I don't know, that seems high, but they said it's a bad one. It could cause interference. It can knock out satellites or at least disrupt signal. It can take out, grids. So be ready for the next couple of days. What if the grid goes down? What are you going to do about power? Do you have enough food? What if all the food in your refrigerator spoils? The first thing you do is go buy ice if you can find any. If you don't have alternate sources. If I move back into an apartment, you can guarantee I'm still going to have my cooler that I've got. I may keep it up in an attic spot, but I'm going to keep it because I can keep food in it. If you have a generator, fine, but a lot of people don't have anything. Somebody complained and said, on one of my comments saying, what happens if, this really happens? Poor people are going to starve to death. Is God going to allow that? Well, first off, if they're not Christians, they're on their own. God's had plenty of opportunity to talk to them. They've had plenty of opportunity to accept it. But what about Christians? Well, when it gets so bad that Christians are dropping like flies, I think we're going to get out of here. We're not supposed to be punished. We have trumpets. Trumpets is, if you need a wake-up call, get a child with a trumpet. My older son took trumpet in school. He could wake you up with that real easy. We have seals, and we have trumpets. It's kind of, the world is opening up to wake up the world with seals and trumpets. It's midway point when the temple is the abomination inside the temple, and that happens, then you get the bowls of wrath. But prior to that, it's all man's doing. But it's wake-up call. Wake up, accept Christ, or you're going to go to hell. We're not sending anybody to hell. God does never send anybody to hell. Hell was created for the devil, not for mankind. But it's going to be for the devil and his like beings. So if you don't accept Christ, then you're accepting the devil by default. And you will go to hell. God doesn't want it. He's got all this stuff down here. All these Christians and all these churches are down here. You have the chosen people to tell people about this. And they've been fooled by the devil enough to where they're not doing a good job. More people are going to go to hell than will go to heaven. But the option's still there. And even after the church is removed, because it's going to get so bad down here, we're not supposed to be punished. We've already accepted Christ. There's no punishment. It's a wake-up call for the world that we have to endure while we're getting the message out. And we're raptured because it's going to be very bad at the end. Something big is going to happen. And if we weren't raptured, we'd die with the people down here. A quarter of the people are going to die during the seals. And another third during the trumpets. And I don't know how many during the bowls. But God said that if he didn't cut the days short, nobody would live. So there's got to be a lot of people die during the bowls. These are wake-up calls in the beginning. Punishment that God's really not doing. It's still the devil's doing, as much as he can get in here and mess things up. Don't let him confuse you. Don't let him tempt you with something. Jesus said, don't be deceived. The most important thing is usually what you state first. What's the end time going to be like? Don't be deceived. But there are so many people out there that are being deceived. Satan's going to pay the price. But it's not all his doing. We're quite capable of messing things up anyway. That's what the millennium's going to prove. Satan locked up, and we're still going to be against God at the end. Get the message out. You can do something. If you are an invalid in bed and you can't get out of bed and they have to bring food to you, you can't go out on the street and pass out tracts. But the one thing you can do, be friendly and smile at the people helping you every time they come in. Have them look at you and go, you're stuck in this bed, you can't move, and yet you're happy. Why? Tell me about this hope you have within you. That's how you can help. You don't have to do anything but display the love and joy of God. And that goes for everybody. If at work, you're not allowed to preach. Some jobs say you can't talk about God at work. But you can be friendly and smile and courteous and do an honest day's work. You can do that. Somebody will notice it. It may not be noticed until you get a raise, but it will still be beneficial to the people around you. There should be a reason that people come to you, want to deal with you. And that's all you have to do. We're witnesses. Witnesses don't necessarily have to stand up on a pulpit. We're held to a higher standard when we do this. We've got to get it right. I try to quote the Bible as often as I can. And even on these freelance videos like I'm doing now, where I'm just talking, I'm still quoting the Bible. I just don't remember the verses because I don't keep that stuff in my head. We're told stories for a reason, because I can remember the stories. I can remember the parables. Some of the parables the people didn't understand, but Jesus specifically explained the parables to his disciples so they would understand. We get the message. All right. I'm going to still be out here for a while waiting for my son. It takes 2 to 3 hours. I've got a bank right next door. I'm going to go over there. I got to pay rent where I'm staying at my park, if I give it cash to them, I save, I don't know, 2 or 3%. So I'm going to go take the cash out. I have to put the money, I have to transfer the money. This is another, I try to throw prepping stuff in here all the time. I cannot withdraw money from the teller machines if it's in my savings. That's a safety precaution. But I can transfer the money to my checking and then withdraw it. Debit cards are not protected, by the way, by the banks. If they take all your money out of your debit cards, the bank does not have to put the money back. Now, they don't want you to know that, so usually they try to help within reason. My son had a whole bunch of money stolen out of his, like $10,000, and the bank wouldn't give it back. So he lost $10,000 because the bank didn't have to honor the money in a debit card. Visa cards they have to honor up to a point. There's a minimum that they can burn, but they have to honor. So the rich guys, the billionaires, the same guy that told me about not being able to buy a car but could buy the dealership, says he doesn't have debit cards and won't let his family have debit cards. They've all got Visa cards. Other people's money. You pay it off. You don't just let it go up until it maxes out and then you grab another card. That's not how you manage your resources. But you use a card, so you're using somebody else's money, and then you pay it off before it comes due, or at least most of it, and you pay very little money for that. Now, obviously, if you're buying something on time and you extend the time, you're going to pay more for that than what it would really be worth. If you buy a car for $20,000, if you buy it over not 30 years, but over 10 years or 5 years, you're going to double that. You're going to be paying $40,000 or $50,000 the longer you take to pay it off. If you're buying a house, you should have it structured as a 15-year, not a 30-year. And the money that's in it, you need to leave alone. If you need to buy something else, you can borrow against the house. But you're not trying to gain assets. You're trying to function. All right. When July's over, hopefully I'm going to get back to work because we've had a threat of a Teamsters strike. Next month and the month after that are going to be interesting. Barry on, others say the middle of August is a good rapture date. I don't agree with it being a good rapture date, but because it's the 9th of Av, it's a time where something could go bad, something wrong, big, major. Turkey's threatened Israel, a NATO country. If they get involved, it's going to be major. It's World War III if they get involved, right off the bat. So something major is going to happen in August. I'm still looking at a September rapture as a good possibility. I have no definites on any of this stuff. I've just got the feeling, you get that feeling that something's coming, something's ominous out there. Well, I think we've got that. I'm looking to September because it'd be 7 years from the Revelation 12 sign, which apparently wasn't the rapture signal, but God always warns people. 7 years is the completion number, so middle to end of September. Again, either something big or the rapture. We have work to do, and time is running out. Could it be another year or 2 or 3? I can't see it taking that long. Not as fast and as far as this overthrow of the world governments is taken. And they're losing some ground right now. They're gaining ground in one area and losing it in another. So they want to escalate, move things up a little bit. The 2030 agenda. Okay, we have work to do. Be a good soldier, put your armor on, and the armor comes with a sword. It's offense too. And keep an eye on the clouds. That's where I'll see you. God bless.